What's going on, gamers? It's your boy Diggs Gaming. Welcome back to Off Hunting's Gaming News. And tonight I am joined by
Sir Meliodas.
that's right, guys. Meliodas is back. First time we have seen him for the gaming news this year. Meliodas has failed to be back.
Long awaited.
And we have a lot of good stuff to talk about tonight. So you picked a good one to start. But unfortunately, we do have some sad news to discuss first. Lance Reddick, who was the voice of Silas in Horizon, the Horizon series, was part of the Destiny series as well, also acted in shows like The Wire and Fringe, has unfortunately passed away at the age of 60. And this is just sad to hear. From what I've heard, it looks like it was natural causes, but it's just hard to believe because, like I said, he was only 60 years old and didn't even look like he was 60 years old. Meliodas, what were your feelings like when you heard about this?
First, I was confused. It's like the same thing with Chadwick Boseman. I was confused. I was like, "Who are you talking about?" Because you're like, you don't want to believe like the person that you're talking about is the person that you're talking about. So it sucks. He was an amazing voice actor, an amazing actor. Not at that, but like an amazing voice actor. Like I can count on I can't even count on my hands how many video games and TV shows he voiced for. So he's gonna be missed.
He will. And something really cool that Destiny players did, they actually did kind of a shrine or memorial to him. Like there were players all around his character after the news came out. And I thought that was really cool.
I saw that. I saw that. That was
That's
nice.
just really cool. It just goes to show you how loved he was. And yeah, I mean, he had one of those distinct voices. I remember the first time I ever saw him, it was, I believe it was a guest star on CSI Miami. And I've seen him throughout the years, and I didn't realize that was him until I looked back and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't realize that was him. All right, guys, moving on. We do have a lot of stuff to talk about with the Microsoft Activision deal, but first, let's get into some E3 news. So, Microsoft has officially confirmed they are not going to be appearing at E3 this year, which we already knew because it was reported by IGN that Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo were not going to be at E3, and then they announced that we're going to have a Xbox showcase on June 11th with a Starfield direct showcase, whatever you want to call it, coming soon after that. And yeah, so Nintendo officially confirmed it, and now Microsoft has officially confirmed it, and we're just waiting to see on Sony, but it definitely looks like that, especially with the report from Jeff Grubb that Sony is planning their just a big showcase for phase 2 of the PlayStation 5. So what do you think of this, Meliodas?
I think it is good for Microsoft because what's the two big games they have launching in the coming months?
Redfall and Starfield.
Yeah, so the Starfield showcase has to hit home. They have to show enough that answers all the questions that all people are asking for, all people are looking for. They have to show enough of that. And then Redfall, once that hits, it has to hit home because these is like the two games that are starting off Xbox this year will be Redfall. For beginning, we'll start with Redfall. So Redfall has to hit home and Starfield has to hit home. So
Well,
I think
don't
the
forget we
showcase,
got Hi-Fi Rush earlier this year. Don't forget that was Shadow Drop. So that's technically the first Xbox game for this year. But I totally understand your point.
yeah,
And Redfall is releasing May, I believe, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and then Starfield, we got an official release date for that. It's September. Hopefully it doesn't get delayed again. But with Starfield, definitely need to see more of that. I understand the hype around it, but it just doesn't excite me as it probably should. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I'm more excited about Redfall than I am Starfield, and you're the exact same way.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been big on Bethesda.
All right, now we're going to move on to the Microsoft Activision deal. And Microsoft has announced two more 10-year deals, neither of which is PlayStation, by the way. Neither of them is Sony. We have Boosteroid and Ubitus, I believe. So they are bringing Call of Duty there. I'll be
What's that?
honest, I had not heard of these two before I heard of this 10-year deal. What about you, Meliodas?
I think they are what streaming like cloud-based
Yes.
platforms. So Microsoft has dabbled and dipped and bedazzled everything in cloud-based going on. So it makes sense with the deal, but I don't know how many people are going to be playing. I don't even know who they are until
Yeah, Boosteroid is a cloud platform, and Ubitus, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. That's another cloud gaming service.
my thing with cloud gaming is your internet. It all
Exactly.
relies on your internet. So not everyone is going to be playing it because not everyone has the best internet. So
Yeah, that's the truth. That is the truth. And Microsoft is just making themselves look good with all these 10-year deals that they're doing. They're doing it with these two. They did it with Nintendo and one other one. I think it was Steam. I think the other one was Steam. So they are making themselves look good.
yeah, it was Steam.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the later podcast, like what I was saying that I don't think Microsoft was like really looking for it. Like that the whole acquisition wasn't just for Call of Duty. So for them to branch it off, it's letting people know that hey, we have Call of Duty under us, but we're not really going for Call of Duty. It's the studios that are under Activision themselves, like Ravensoft and all of them. So
Yeah, I
them
think
branching off
yeah,
Call of Duty, it's like, hey, we have it, but like we don't really care because we're gonna let it do its thing anyways. That's my whole thing. So
well, my whole thing with this is Call of Duty is the big one. I mean, that's the big money maker.
yeah, so that's what I'm saying. So
But
Microsoft knows it's
but
going to sell
but
regardless.
yeah, but you make a great point how there's still a lot of talented developers there that have
Mm-hmm.
basically been what's the word I'm looking for?
Thrown in the vault by Activision. So
Yeah, pretty much. And when you look at the IPs that Microsoft could bring back with buying these Activision publishers, I mean, these buying Activision and its studios, my bad, it does put a smile on your face when you think about it.
mm-hmm.
But you have to do this right. For Call of Duty, no way they can make that exclusive. It just wouldn't work because a lot of its
It
players
wouldn't
are on
sell.
PlayStation. And
Most of its player base is PlayStation. Though.
yeah, pretty much. And while you can say, oh, wouldn't they just change to Xbox? It still wouldn't be the
It still
money.
wouldn't sell.
Yeah. Even if it was all of these and they didn't release it on PlayStation, I think you would still be losing money.
Yeah,
And
lose
then
half its
other,
player base.
but the good that Microsoft could do for Activision, if this purchase does go through, that has to be taken into account. But then you also have to take into account that it's a $70 billion purchase of a major publisher, one of the biggest publishers, third-party publishers, mind you, with maybe the biggest game in all. So that has to be taken into account too. So you got to see it from both sides. And with all the craziness that's been going on, and the CMA has actually released quotes from 6 companies, none of which are Microsoft, Activision, or PlayStation. Well, part of this is from there, but 6 companies that are not them. And all of them either are in favor of this or don't think it's going to harm gaming.
Right. I
So
don't think it
really,
will harm
Sony's just
gaming either.
standing on its own at this point.
I don't know what Sony wants from Activision. If they just want Call of Duty, just take the deal with Microsoft, right? But if it's the exclusivities that are coming from that once they purchase or once the buyout goes through, it's that what's like, okay, Sony say, okay, Microsoft has no more exclusives and stuff. So I don't know if it's that or if it's just the Call of Duty because a lot of, like I said, a lot of the Call of Duty player base is majority on PlayStation. So if Sony is afraid of losing that aspect of it, this 10-year deal, just take the 10-year deal. And who's to say Microsoft wouldn't say, hey, we don't really want Call of Duty, you know? We don't really want Call. And then they either sell it to Sony or what. But I think they should just take the deal.
Yeah, I mean that's really the big one right here. What's going to happen with Sony? Also, the FTC. So I was talking about the CMA, and now we're talking to the FTC.
Mm-hmm.
They are still trying to get documents from Microsoft. The documents include Microsoft's exclusivity plans with ZeniMax, that's Bethesda. They want to know more information about Microsoft's next generation gaming ecosystem. And then they also want more information about these 10-year deals. And it was Nevada. It was not Steam, it was Nevada. That was the other
Okay.
10-year deal. So yeah, apparently Microsoft has not been giving them the documents that they have been requesting,
Who,
and the FTC
Sony
is getting
or
mad at them.
that Sony requested or
This is the FTC.
okay.
If it wasn't for all the stuff that's going on with Sony, probably more people would be taking a look into this and you have to ask, why would Microsoft not be giving them these documents if they're asking for it? But why should Microsoft be giving them these documents?
Right. It's like 50-50. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just weird because they want their game plan for the next generation of consoles. They want to know their plans with exclusivity with ZeniMax, again, Bethesda, and then the 10-year deals. Well, the 10-year deals I completely get.
But
The
why would they want to
exclusive,
know what's going on with Bethesda when that buyout is already said and done? That doesn't matter anymore.
I think because of the comments of what Phil Spencer said of uh games were going to be on a case by case basis, and if it turns out that they're just all going to be exclusive from now on, it's not really a good look because he says he wants to get games into the hands of more players, not less players. And we're talking Bethesda, who was a multi-platform publisher, and then you're taking those games away from PlayStation and
Right.
and other places, not just PlayStation, but
Who
and then all
owns the right to Bayonetta? Isn't that Bethesda?
Platinum.
Oh, Platinum Games. Okay.
Yeah. And then one more thing. So Microsoft had given their response to, I think it was a CMA, and something crazy happened with their response. So they were talking about big titles that PlayStation had, the exclusive titles, and they were mentioning big titles like God of War or Superman. Sony has never had an exclusive Superman game. And some people were thinking, oh, is this Microsoft confirming that there is a Superman game in development? What probably happened was they probably meant Spider-Man instead of Superman. And that's probably what happened.
Yeah,
But
I think they
that's
meant
kind of funny.
I
It's
think
kind of
they meant
funny how they got
Spider-Man.
those two mixed up.
Well, they do have a fair argument there because
Yeah, they do.
Sony doesn't own the rights to Spider-Man. And it's kind of messy with Marvel in that.
Well,
They only own the cinematic rights. But Marvel owns the toys, the merch, video game rights. So the deal that Marvel and Sony struck with Spider-Man to be on PlayStation exclusive had to be one hefty penny.
well, here's some context to that. So they were shopping around for a new Spider-Man game, and they actually went to Microsoft. Microsoft turned them down. Then they went to Sony. Sony said yes. That's
Right.
pretty much what happened. So Microsoft had a chance to make a Spider-Man game, and they turned it down. At the time, Microsoft had said that they were more focusing on their own IPs. I think it just depends how you look at it, because it was Disney and Marvel that were shopping that around to other studios. And it just so happened that Sony was the one that said yes. Okay, so before we wrap this up, Meliodas, let me ask you, give me your craziest prediction with how this deal ends. Just give me your craziest prediction.
I think it ends with Sony coming to their senses and they're going to sign the 10-year deal. I see this wrapping up soon and that it's going to go through to Microsoft. And if Sony does not sign the deal, they lose the potential of Call of Duty on their console for 15 years or whatever max. So the ball is really in Microsoft's court. Sony has to hit a home run here and say, you know what, we value Call of Duty, we value, and this is a be for, and it's not just for Sony because at the end of the day, without us, there will be no Sony, there will be no Microsoft. So Sony has to be like, okay, we value our players, we value our community, we value the people who buy our products. Let's sign this 10-year deal, not for us, but for them. So I think Sony should see it that way and say, hey, this is for the players. Let's sign a deal. Let's call it a day.
Okay, not exactly what I was asking, but that's a pretty good insight to that. My craziest prediction is Sony does sign the 10-year deal.
Mm-hmm.
They're okay with it, but they also get the Crash and Spyro RP and Toys for Bomb and Beanox. That I think would just be the craziest scenario if that happened. This is not something that I say is going to happen. What I think is going to happen is this deal's going to go through whether Sony
Right.
agrees to it or not. That's my opinion. This deal's going to go through no matter what. But the craziest thing would be is if Crash and Spyro were officially part of the PlayStation family. That's what I think would be the craziest thing to come out of this. Would you agree?
I can see that.
All right, we're going to move on from the Microsoft Activision talk, and we're actually going to move on to Nintendo. So, Nintendo of America president Doug Bowser was talking to the Associated Press about Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and was actually talking about its $70 price tag. And this is what he had to say. We look at what the game has to offer. I think fans will find this an incredibly full, deeply immersive experience. The price point reflects the type of experience that fans can expect when it comes to playing this particular game. I mean, that was a big talking point, the $70 price tag. Let's be honest with that, Meliodas.
To me, when I see $70, then again, no, let me throw that out the window because I pay $70 for some games that are quote unquote next generation features. It's all a matter of what you think your game should be priced as.
Yeah.
Now, if they think the game is worth $70, then it's worth $70. It's Zelda we're talking about. But am I gonna pay $70 for this? I'll right out the gate for a Switch title? No, I won't.
Yeah, and that's a
But
very good point because
is it
this is
criminal to have it at $70? No, because I'm not that much of a diehard Zelda fan. But the diehard Zelda fans will not bat a finger. They will not bat an eye. They will not spit out a curse word. They will not start a riot. They will buy the game because it's Zelda. So hopefully it goes on sale. Or I might just bite the bullet. But like when it first comes out, I'm not going to get it.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a talking point since we found out the price of the game. It's been a talking point because it's the first Nintendo first party Switch game that is $70. So this game has to be very, very good and extremely big in order to justify that in people's eyes. But it is The Legend of Zelda, and it's a sequel to Breath of the Wild. And with what we have seen from Tears of the Kingdom, it looks like diehard fans are going to enjoy this game, and it's going to be well worth the $70 price tag in their eyes. Now, if you don't think that it should cost that you should pay $70 for this, that you're more than welcome to wait until the game goes on sale.
With
But for those that
Nintendo,
think
that's very rare.
that's true, that's true too. Moving on to some news about The Last of Us. So The Last of Us Season 1 just wrapped up, and we actually got some news on what we can expect from Season 2, and also we got some little information on Naughty Dog's next game, and it might not be The Last of Us Part 3. Now, let me explain on that. Neil Druckmann recently did an interview, and he explained the process of Naughty Dog picking their next game. He stated, so at the end of every project, we purposely explore several different projects. Some of them might be a sequel, and then a bunch of new ideas. And then we really feel like, where do our passions lie? I know fans really want The Last of Us Part 3. I hear about it all the time. And all I can say is that, look, we're already into our next project. Kind of expected that, to be quite honest. That's just what Naughty Dog is. That's what they've been doing for years, jumping from one IP to another. They started with Crash, then moved on to Jak and Daxter, then moved on to Uncharted, and then moved on to The Last of Us. Meliodas, what do you take from this information that Neil Druckmann gave?
It's not much there's not much more story you can tell from The Last of Us, especially how The Last of Us 2 ended. Unless you venture off with Abby and Liv, or Lev, I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name, or Lev, or if you just venture off with Ellie and God knows who, because we all know it's no joke. But from the way the story ended, it's like Ellie came to her senses. Ellie figured out who she was, and then Abby and Lev went off and did whatever they wanted to do. So ending it that way, it's like, what more can you tell from it? She's not going to go change her mind 15 years down the line and go find Abby and try to kill her again because she already came to her senses and she doesn't want to do that anymore. So like unless they do a spinoff or just create a different story with like a different group of survivors, it's nothing more they can really do with that. Unless it's like something fans are keen eye on or something they pick up on something. But like from me, it's nothing more they can do. So I say leave it.
And as for the information with The Last of Us Part 2, we found out that it's going to be a little different from the game. Bella Ramsey will be returning as Ellie, and they will be doing a time skip. We're going to have more infected. It's not going to cover the whole second game, and filming is going to start later this year. When people heard that it was going to be different from the games, they were thinking maybe they're going to change parts of the story, but that's probably not what's going to happen. What's going to happen is it's probably going to be told a little bit differently than how it was in the game, because from what I understand, I still haven't watched The Last of Us show, but there were parts that were different from the first game. That's probably what we're going to get from this. Meliodas, you've talked about how much you really do not like the story of The Last of Us Part 2. So what do you think of The Last of Us second season?
You know what's funny?
What?
I actually came around to it. The I actually came around to it. I haven't played it. I haven't even played Last of Us One. I played it, but I never beat it. But like, I'm not going to rant too long. But Joe actions caught up to him.
Mm-hmm.
Joe deserved to die, or Joe knew he was going to get. He knew it was coming, right? He knew one day, 1 year, or something was going to come. My whole gripe with that was it was done badly.
Okay.
They degraded Joe's character because if you look at the first one, he's keen to ambushes. He's always on his game. He knows what's up, like like he knows what's going to happen. So for him to get set up in that room with them and then him get killed that way, it's like that's not Joe. Then on the other hand, it's like we all know what Joe did. We all know if Ellie had a say in a hospital, which she didn't. So the Fireflies are dead wrong for that too. But if she said, hey, if they asked her, Joe knew she was going to say yeah. But Joe did what he did because they didn't give her a choice. But he knew she was going to say yeah. So it was like, even if she said yeah, I'm still going to start this entire hospital. I'm still going to save that, right? But he knew that was going to happen. So I actually came around to The Last of Us Part Two. I haven't
Okay.
played it, but I think it. I think like I said, Joe's death could have been done better. Could have been written better. Maybe Abby should have saved Joe instead of Joe saving Abby. That he could have dropped his guard a little bit. Then it would have made more sense. He drops his guard a little bit because she saved him. He doesn't know her, but him saving her and them going back to there with them. Well, nah, but going off that, I think them changing stuff up in season two like they did in season one makes sense because like some
Yeah.
of the stuff that people were saying, hey, this wasn't in the they didn't do this how it was in the game. Like some of the stuff that you're asking for only makes sense inside of a game.
Mm-hmm.
It only makes sense inside of a game. Like Joe falling on like the whole entire rebar and then have to pull himself off of it. That's for a game.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's for a game. So it's like some of the stuff they were asking for, I get it. You wanted to see it, but like you're asking for stuff that's like built off of a game. So them changing part two, season two for part two of The Last of Us story, I think it'd be good. The only thing, and I didn't have a problem with the episode. I think it was episode three. I really wanted to see how Ellie and I forget his name when they go get the truck from that one town. I forget his name. I'm sorry, but episode three wasn't bad. It was just like I get fans. They wanted to see the reaction with Ellie and that one guy. I'm sorry, I forget his name, but I think it was Bob or something. It's like it's such a simple name, but I'm forgetting it. But it's like when they go get the truck and then he found out his partner underlived himself, and that's when you figure out he was gay. But the way they told that story there was okay, but wanted some action. But as long as if they don't change too much from like what they did in episode three, I think season two, part two of The Last of Us will be all right.
Moving on, Sony president Hiroki Totoki has stated that he's still confident that PlayStation 5 is going to hit 60 million units by the end of their fiscal year, which is in March 2024. Right now, we just found out in the last report that they had recently hit 30 million. So now we're talking 60 million units sold by March 2024. That seems like a lot, but hey, we've seen stranger things.
Dun dun dun.
But
Sales,
I think,
sales, sales. It's all a numbers game.
yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what Microsoft and Sony and Nintendo all focus on anyway. So
And what it sounds like, he's banking on the fact that the stock has been very much improved from the very beginning, which we already know. We got the official word, no more stock shortages with the PlayStation 5. The games that are out, the games that are going to be out later this year. And he's banking on that to increase the uh, hype for this, or not hype, but just the want to get one.
mhm.
And we'll see. Moving on from that, Tom Henderson is reporting that there is a PlayStation 5 Pro in development that is going to be released in 2024. And he's also stating that the current gen of gaming could last until 2028. So with the PlayStation 5 Pro, pretty much same thing as the PlayStation 4 Pro was, an updated console with improved features.
Mhm.
And then for the current generation to last until 2028, that would make a whole lot of sense if you ask me, because pretty much the first year and a half of this generation was just them trying to get the stock situation sorted, both Sony and Microsoft, because of the after effects of COVID.
I can tell you that it makes a lot of sense because I'm gonna tell you, it may not be everyone might not like the game. Everyone might think it's underwhelming. But I can tell you from my experience, from what I've seen from these consoles, that what they can put out, the Callisto Protocol is one of the best looking games of this generation so far.
What does that have to do with this, Meliodas?
I'm just saying, because I'm saying you're saying like graphically and how the consoles will last that far. I'm saying what the console can do now, I'm not surprised how long it's going to carry them out now. So
Oh, okay. 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 And for those of you wondering, well, it's just an insider. How seriously should we take this? Well, Tom has been right on a lot of things from Sony. He got right on the latest update from Sony, and he's gotten other things right as to things that were going to be, that Sony was going to talk about later. So I think there's a better than 50% chance that a PlayStation 5 Pro is on its way. Now, 2024, do you think that's too soon for a PlayStation 5 Pro? Or do you think that's just right?
uh, I think it's just right.
Well, if anything, the prices for the console would have to go down by that point.
Yeah,
Because if it doesn't, and you're going to release this PlayStation 5 Pro, that's going to cost more money, it's not going to sit well with fans.
I see Microsoft pulling the same trick with that. Gonna have the Series X. I think they're gonna discontinue the Series S or have it out for a few more years and then put out a Pro version of their Series X and severely they're gonna be losing it. And this is Sony and Microsoft are both gonna be losing money from this, but drop the prices of the PS5 and whatever and then charge for the upgrades on that one.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, but we will find out if this is true when and if they are announced. Moving on, we just got word that Hogwarts Legacy has topped Elden Ring in sales in the UK. I mean, to how
I mean, it's
big?
not. I'm not surprised. Like,
Nah.
what is it? Isn't Harry Potter like based in the UK anyway? So
Yeah,
it
yeah,
makes
but
more
still,
sense
I
that
mean,
it's more fans out
but
there.
that's saying something considering just how big Elden Ring was,
Yeah.
and the fact that Hogwarts Legacy has topped them in the UK. That's pretty big. Just wanted to mention that a little bit. Moving on from that, Gamescom, we found out that registrations are up 10% from last year, and that a major company is going to be returning to Gamescom. That's a great tease to have.
A major
Because now
company.
you're just wondering, who is this major company that's going to be returning to Gamescom?
Uh,
And to be honest, we talked about Gamescom last year, and it was pretty good. Gamescom was pretty good last year. Remember, this is hosted by Jeff Keighley, and we shall see what Gamescom is going to have up their sleeve this year. We're going to see. Moving on from that, the Silent Hill movie has officially casted its leads, and it's going to begin filming next month.
I said another Silent Hill movie. Oh boy. Well, then again, the first Silent Hill movie was critically acclaimed. So the second one not so much. So I heard this one is going to like actually like I heard this one is like based off Silent Hill 2.
Yeah, we shall see. I mean, we all know the track record with video games and movies, but who knows? Maybe this one will be one of the rare good ones. Moving on from that, Ghostwire Tokyo will be officially coming to Game Pass next month, along with a new update for the game. That's a good idea by Bethesda, Microsoft, whoever you want to take credit for that, to have it come out on Game Pass and then have an update for it as well. Remember, Ghostwire Tokyo was made by Tango Games, had an exclusive 1-year deal with Sony and PlayStation before coming everywhere else, and that was announced before the acquisition of Bethesda by Microsoft. So Ghostwire Tokyo officially coming to Game Pass, and that might be the last Bethesda game that PlayStation ever sees. One last thing we're going to talk about. Well, two last things we're going to talk about. Two big games got reviews this week. One, Bayonetta Origins, and the other one, Resident Evil 4 Remake. Okay, Meliodas, you're probably excited, but I'm going to start with Bayonetta Origins real quick. I'm shocked just how good the reviews are. Right now, it's sitting at 80 on Metacritic, and the fan score is a 7.3. That's not too bad. It's not the critical acclaim that Bayonetta 3 was, but I had no idea what was going to happen with this game. So the fact that it's there, that's actually pretty good for this game. All right, Meliodas, let's talk about Resident Evil 4 Remake. The Chainsaw demo had come out. Now, you and I both tried out the Chainsaw demo. What were your impressions of the game?
Beautiful. The movement, the gunplay, the combat, the scenery. It's that's what Resident Evil 3 should have been. But the demo was good. I like the demo. It's not too long, it's not too short. It gives you the feel of the combat that you were used to, not used to, but like getting used to from RE3. I mean RE2 remake to RE3 to RE4. So it's like it's the same, just a different location, different character, same gameplay. So I like it.
Yeah, I tried it out too, and I liked it as well. As you guys know, I've never played a Resident Evil game before. That was the first time ever trying a Resident Evil game. Of course, I sucked, but I understand why it's getting critical acclaim. And when this was first announced, and Meliodas, you and JoJo were talking about this game happening long before it was ever announced.
Yes. Yes. Because I think, and don't quote me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like a fan made or like someone like a fan was working on a game. And you could tell like when a game is going to be getting like worked on because I think Capcom pulled it down or something. They halted it, they stopped it, and then it was like I would say like no longer than like 2 months after that, they announced the RE4 remake. So it's like you can and it all makes sense because they started with RE2, then they started with RE3, and then they was like, hey, let's just keep it going, and then they don't do 4. What I'm really banking on is RE5 remake. With the combat that they have now, from the gameplay they have now, I think RE5 will be the best online multiplayer Resident Evil game next gen. But it was
But we're
like,
talking about Resident Evil 4 Remake here.
yeah, it was going to happen regardless whether
Yeah.
we wanted to or not, because it makes sense from the track record that they were doing with the remakes anyway. So it
And
was
what
going
I
to happen.
really and what I really like about this is that they didn't just do a graphical update with basically the same things that happened in the game.
Mhm.
There are definitely changes to this, and I like that because this has a chance for it to be its own thing and not just it's just updated graphics, but it's the same game basically.
Mhm.
So I like
Different.
that. I really do.
The movement, from the shooting to the combat. So
And then we got to look at how the character is going to look, and for the most part, the characters look amazing.
they look like he should. I like the Leon look that they're
Oh
going
yeah.
with from now.
But not just Leon. I mean, Ashley looked good. I think Luis looks good. We saw some of the villains. Again, I'm not surprised that this is getting critical acclaim. And with all that being said, we are done with gaming news for this week. I know we were off for the last 2 weeks, but we're back More importantly, Sir Meliodas was back.
Sorry, I think I ranted a lot in this one.
Don't worry about it, Meliodas. This is your first time back in months. You've earned it. All right. With all that being said, I am Diggs Gaming.
And it's been your boy, Sir Meliodas.
And we will see you guys next time.
See ya.